Okay. Hello, I'm Pat Rice, editor of the News-Journal, and welcome to the fourth in a series of candidate debates, this one with the three candidates who are running for Daytona Beach mayor. We're going to get to the debate in a couple of minutes, but first, a little background. The News-Journal's candidate debates in the past have always included a live audience, sometimes a pretty large live audience. But we can't do that this year because of the coronavirus pandemic. So instead, we're holding our debates with the smallest number of people possible so we can ensure social distancing for the candidates. The room we're using also received a hard clean just a couple of hours ago. Through Facebook Live, we hope to replace our live audience that would be in the room with an electronic live audience. We also plan to post video of this debate on YouTube so voters can watch it right up to the August 18th election. Of course, it's always possible that technology will malfunction on us, especially if I'm involved. So, if that occurs, I apologize in advance. But if it does happen, we have you covered because our excellent reporter, Eileen Zafiro-Keen, is in another room also listening. And she's typing away, and we'll use her notes to put together a story that will end up online tomorrow at newsjournalonline.com, and then in our print edition the next day. Just a couple more points about format. First, all candidates will have an opportunity to weigh in on all questions, and all candidates will get the same number of questions to answer first. The candidate who receives a question will have 90 seconds to answer, and then the other candidates will have 90 seconds to answer. It will be up to me as moderator to determine if a question needs more discussion after that. We'll do that as on a question-by-question basis. But if it doesn't, then we'll just go on to the next question. And finally, at the end of the debate, each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. And then we'll be done. So let me begin with a quick introduction of each candidate. The first candidate is Sherrise Boyd. Ms. Boyd is the Poor People's Campaign representative for the Daytona Beach area. She also sits on the board of the Volusia Flagler YMCA and serves as an ambassador for the United Way of Volusia Flagler. She also spent 3 years in property management and 6 years in restaurant management. Ms. Boyd became interested in politics in 2009 when she worked for an Atlanta mayoral candidate. She's also the mother of 3 daughters and a very handsome young man, Joshua. Ms. Boyd, welcome to tonight's debate.
Thank you. Thank you, Pat.
You're welcome. Our next candidate is Derrick Henry. Mr. Henry has been mayor of Daytona Beach since 2013 and is seeking his 3rd term. He also served from 2009 to 2011 on the Daytona Beach City Commission. Mr. Henry is an assistant principal at Holly Hills School. He is married to Dr. Stephanie Henry, an international education consultant and creator of learning programs. Mayor Henry has 2 sons, Michael and Derrick Jr., and a beautiful young daughter named Paisley. Word has it that Mr. Henry also used to be a pretty good basketball player in high school. That won't come into play tonight. Mr. Henry, welcome to tonight's debate.
Thank you.
And our last candidate, but not least, is Ken Strickland. Mr. Strickland has lived in Daytona Beach since 1991. He and his wife, Deborah Jarnigan Strickland, have 7 children, 9 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. Is that correct? Am I close?
It's 11 grandkids.
Oh, 11
No grades.
grandchildren. Well, I was typing too fast. He's been a community activist in recent years, helping on the Let Volusia Vote petition for beach driving, and more recently in working to defeat a proposed half-cent sales tax. He also works to help the homeless. He's a regular attendee of city commission meetings and other city meetings. Mr. Strickland, welcome to today's debate.
Thank you, Pat. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And we determined before tonight's debate that we would begin the questions in alphabetical order. So, Ms. Boyd, the first question is to you. Daytona Beach And I have to tell you, just to start out, some of my questions are a little wordy. They take a little setup, but not too much.
Okay.
So here's the first one. Daytona Beach is growing rapidly around the I-95 LPGA intersection. And it doesn't appear that that development will slow anytime soon. This development will bring millions of dollars in property taxes to the city, but there's also a great cost for police, fire, and other services in that area. And all the development has greatly increased traffic, especially on the LPGA Boulevard corridor. So the question is, has the LPGA corridor grown too fast? Why or why not?
I do believe it has grown too fast, and I believe it has grown too fast, and the reason I believe that is because, as you can see right now, we have a larger capacity of development and not much of it is occupied. And what is occupied, or what is not occupied, a lot of the people that reside here cannot afford to live in that area. And currently, as we see, I don't think they plan for situations like this in case we were to have a pandemic, etc. So we have to build mindfully and strategically. And in regards to that area exactly, I do believe that there was other areas for opportunity that we could have had developers invest in.
Okay, thank
They're
you.
having a hard time here.
Okay,
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
so what should we do about that?
Right now, it's talk louder. I don't
Okay.
have any other
I'll just ask
mic.
the candidates to just speak up, and we will try to keep this as close to you as we can.
Okay.
Okay. Mayor Henry?
Yes, sir.
Same question.
Well, this development was planned. You know, I've been in Daytona Beach my entire life, and we knew that this growth would take place. It was just a matter of when. So it was planned, and it was properly developed and designed. Certainly, the roads have not reached their capacity. I live on that corridor. Very seldom am I stuck in traffic, if at all. So I'm very happy with the rate of growth. And certainly, we would not be in the excellent physical position that we're in were it not for the development that we've added to that region. So without a doubt, it was planned, and we're in great stead, I believe, in large part because of that planned development.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Strickland, same question to you.
Well, we haven't never done an impact study that I know of for the rapid development that we have out there on the west side. We need to know exactly how much development is planned, how much has been approved, how much is done, so we would get a clear picture of what's going on with it. We're going to have some issues if we don't currently have issues with the traffic, with the bridge out there. We're also going to have some problems with water going forward. We're almost at our cup limit, which I believe is 13.5 million gallons a day now. Once all that development that is approved gets built up, we're going to have some water issues we're going to have to deal with, and we probably should start looking at those now. The impact of these things with our green space and our economy, we need to slow down the permitting, if not stop it, until we get a clear picture of where we are, what we need infrastructure-wise, and what it's going to take to have the least impact on the people that already live here, plus the ones that are moving here, so they can have a nice transition into our city and not be caught in traffic, short of water, those kinds of things going forward.
Okay, good. Well, let's just go to the next question, because it's also out in that area. And the next question goes to you, Mr. Henry. I'm gonna call you all Mr. or Ms., if you don't mind, just for the sake of my own keeping track. All right, so the next question is this, and it relates to Avalon Park, which is something that's proposed but has not yet begun development. But the developers of Avalon Park want to build 10,000 homes and a lot of commercial and retail property over a period of decades. As well, on the east side of I-95 between Granada and LPGA. They floated the idea of some sort of bond issue to help pay for road and other infrastructure. What is your position about the Avalon Park project as you look at it right now?
Well, first and foremost, we have to remember that a city that's not growing usually is a city that's dying. So I am a candidate who has believed from my time on the commission as a commissioner as well as mayor that we have to have sustained growth that takes place over a number of years. And so I would to welcome Minto and Margaritaville to our community. As it relates to Avalon Park, it's my belief that they should be the one that foots the bill as it relates to any bond. So if they choose to develop, and in large part, if we can work out the details, because the devil is in the details, I would likely be supportive if we can get things done properly. Because remember, they bought a portion of property from Minto that Minto had planned to develop, so they pretty much have the rights to that, which is about 3,200 homes. But they would, as long as the residents of Daytona Beach do not have to hold any bond, if they carry the bond, and if they're able to help us with the infrastructure, and the projects that they're discussing right now include helping us take care of the bridge, which is, as we know, in our posterity, is a very important part of our future, as well as some of the major thoroughfares. It needs to be widened, and they have a pretty good. Not sure if 75 million is quite enough, but that's a part of the details that we have to work out.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Strickland, same question to you.
We continue, and here we are again with more development without a plan going forward, without having the infrastructure in place to be able to handle all the folks that we're going to be expecting. We're looking at 10,000 homes, 20,000 people, 1 million square feet of retail out there. And, I'm okay with development, but we need to plan it properly, have infrastructure in place, and be sure that it doesn't fall to the current residents to have to reach back into their pocket and to pay out of their pocket to help to support these things, or to give incentives to help with the infrastructure stuff, or to even sign on or co-sign with the bond issue. These developers know what our rules are. They should come in with their own money and pay their own way and not be a burden to the existing residents as we go forward. Because we're all going to have to do some changing as it is, because we're going to have more people, we're going to have more traffic, and we're going to have to deal with that going forward. So it would be real nice if we had developers come in that were responsible enough to pay all their impact fees and to pay for all the infrastructure upgrades that need to be made, because we do know that low density single family development is not going to create enough revenue to pay its own way once it's built out. It has to get revenue from somewhere.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Boyd, we're going to bring this camera down this way so that we're sure to be able to pick up your voice. And same question to you.
May you repeat? I'm sorry.
The question is Avalon Park. It's a proposed development that is just on the west side of I-95 between Granada and LPGA. 10,000 homes. I think it's a couple million square feet of retail and commercial. It's basically to build a city that is kind of self-contained. They've also asked for some sort of bond issue, the possibility of that to help pay for infrastructure improvements. And your thoughts about the Avalon Park project?
About the Avalon Park project specifically, what I will say is that I did listen to him when he spoke online. I learned a lot, and I think that we appear to be another project for them. And I am sure that whatever Avalon is investing, they are making a lot more than we are getting out of them. And I feel that the growth over there, of course, growth is welcome. Development is necessary. A town that is not growing, of course, is dying. However, if you outgrow yourself and you don't have the capacity or, like I said, the means to withstand, then that's the problem. Over where Avalon is, I do think that, again, like he said, there was no impact fee done. However, there was no impact fee done, and we didn't see plans prior. Some of these plans were prior to them coming in, that is true. But I don't think these plans were prior, and I do think these plans probably benefited other people more so than this community itself. And in regards to the development over there, I think we should have had a developer that picked up a $75 million bond. I think they should have also invested into our city as a, for say, gift sake reason per se. And because once you take that land, we're not going to get that land back. And that's where my issue is. That means we can't build homes there. We can't do other things. So we kind of gave you something that we can't have back. And I think that's the problem. We're getting to the point where the developers have come and taken more than given. And in Avalon specifically, they're not really community friendly when you're trying to isolate us, and operating in silos, that's another issue as well.
Okay, all right, thank you. The next question, and I mentioned earlier that there'd be a number of questions related to development. This is one also, but it's not about development out on the west side. It's about the inside of the city of Daytona Beach, and specifically Daytona Beach's core beach side. So the question is this: Daytona Beach's beach side, it ought to be a jewel. It ought to be the jewel for the area. But instead, it's an area with dilapidated housing, relatively high crime, little robust commercial or retail development. The problems are decades in the making, and no one, not current city officials, not beach driving advocates, not community activists, have found a way to ignite significant positive change there. So with that sort of as the background, what would you do as mayor to improve the beach side?
Well, we need to first fix up our older neighborhoods over there. We need to fix the sidewalks, the streets, the lighting, take care of those neighborhoods, provide some grants to upgrade their properties. Most of those people over there, quite a few of them, have issue with being able to afford to fix up their homes. CRA money, as I understand it in the very beginning, was to be used to fix up homes and businesses in that area. And we haven't done enough of that. All we've done is keep the CRA money in a pot to give to developers. And we can use Ocean Walk shops as a example. We paid a lot of money and did a bond, and now we just refinanced the bond on that property there. And we still owe, after all this time, $24 million. That property, as well as the Hilton over there, both of them have been in foreclosure 2 or 3 times, maybe 4, since they were built with our incentive money. So we need to look at those things and also make sure that when we do a deal with a developer, as far as a hotel or a condo goes, there's something in it for the city and the residents. Giving away free infrastructure and cash incentives has helped to get us into the situation we're in now. When developers come here, since our land is cheap and the economy's good, or reasonably good, what are they going to do for us? We need to stop trying to buy prosperity. It hadn't worked for years. So let's get back and say, what are you going to do for us? Not what can we do for you?
Okay, thank you. Ms. Boyd, same question. What would you do as mayor to improve the core beach side area of Daytona Beach?
One, it would involve the businesses as well. We had to work on the businesses that are there. The small businesses are struggling. I think one of the issues is there's not enough money circulating within our city that we can recycle. So we need to get people to build into the city. And also, as for the homes over there, yes, we do need to have those homes looked at and find out which ones are up to code. A lot of those homes aren't up to code. We need the infrastructure fixed, that is correct. We also need to be looking at futuristically, because if you're thinking of what we're dealing with now and the seawall is dilapidating and the storms are coming more rapid, then we need to prepare for them in that manner as well. So instead of just fixing up the homes and making them look nice, I think we need to invest into the home structures and make plans for 25 years out, not just now, because the land that we have now is not going to be the same in 25 years.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Mr. Henry, same question to you.
When the project was done there with the Hilton Hotel and the surrounding development, I was not a part of the city commission. That was long before my time in elected life. So I want to make sure everybody understands that. We didn't give any money to Land Shark Hotel, which is Land Shark restaurant. When they decided to do that, we didn't give any money to the Proto Group Hotel, nor did we give any money to Hard Rock Hotel. So we're not in the business of simply giving money to investors just because. I do believe that we could do a better job of supporting home ownership in that region, because home ownership has improved on the beach side, but it is the number one problem is that you have a lot of rental properties there where people are just simply renting out the properties, and therefore the things that are coming with that are the issues that are associated with folks who use drugs and folks who oftentimes are homeless. So we have to continue to fight against the scourge of homelessness and continue to find ways to funnel money back to the residents and the surrounding businesses using CRA funds to support and buttress our neighborhoods. I also believe that we have to continue to work on our infrastructure. We've got a few infrastructure projects going on the beach side at this time, but it is important because you want to make the community, the beachside community, look like the jewel that it is. And the reality is there are pockets of it that do not look the part. And so I support improving infrastructure, continuing to fight against homelessness, and most importantly, continuing to find ways to improve home ownership, which will empower residents and give them a feeling that they own their neighborhood and encourage them to take better care of their properties.
Okay. I'm going to go to another question to you, Ms. Boyd, and it's also related to the beach side. East Side SB, East International Speedway Boulevard, is a particular sore spot on the beach side. It may be the ugliest gate side to the beach, gateway to the beach, and the entire eastern seaboard of the United States. There's a state plan to improve that stretch, but it may be at least, it could be a couple years before they even begin in earnest with that improvement. And there's also the controversial possibility of a roundabout at A1A and East ISB. Is there anything that can be done in your mind to speed up those improvements on ISD? And so should those improvements include a roundabout?
So is there anything that can be done? I'm positive there is something. However, I'm sure there's something that could be done. However, right now, it feels weird talking about right now, what I think could be done, it's really, we're looking at tomorrow, but we're still dealing with today, which is the pandemic. So before we go out and say we can rush out and do this, you know, we need to look at the companies that are in dire need right now, or places that are shut down because of the pandemic. So some of these questions, I mean, hypothetically, without the pandemic, there are a lot of other answers I want to give you, but with that in mind, we have to keep that focus. So if we build over there, the things that need to be done over there, they do need to be cleaned up. The roundabout, I think, is a good idea. However, who's going to foot the bill on that? So we need to think of cost-effective ways to make the improvements. The other things I'm thinking in that area, obviously we can't widen the streets, but possibly a through path. So where you come over, in my regards, I think that would probably be a better idea versus a roundabout. Some people think roundabouts cause more traffic. I don't think they do. They actually alleviate it, in my opinion. But that overall, that is it. To speed it up, I don't really think right now we can, unless you come in and you get the contractors in and you get bids and things like that. But speed it up right now, I just don't think it's going to be much of a process faster than what we can deal with what we're dealing with.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Henry, same question to you.
You know, in the city of Daytona Beach, you cannot have a mayor who is opposed and averse to development. You have to partner with developers. That's why we've been in the process since my time and even before of amassing some of the properties there and hopefully being able at some point in time to partner with the right developer to help bring the needed change that we all acknowledge that is necessary for that area of the city. As it relates to a roundabout, you know, initially I was in favor of it because that's what the state assessed and said was a great project. Others said it was. Now that Miriam Giarbi and others are saying that it's not, you know, if we need to make an adjustment, let's make the adjustment before we make a mistake. But I think the most important thing as it relates to the development is being able to attract the right developer, partnering with them, because the bottom line is the city itself, we are not in the business of developing projects. We are in the business of partnering and incentivizing with developers, so it has to be a win-win. something that the investor sees that they can capitalize on, and something that will, captivate the community and be beautiful enough for us as we enter our greatest resource, which is our beach.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Strickland,
Yes, sir.
same question to you.
East ISB has gone downhill since the mid-90s. It needs a lot of work over there. It's going to cost a lot of money. I am not in favor of a roundabout. I never have been. That's the busiest beach ramp in the county. And to put a roundabout there with people going onto the beach, off of the beach, north and south on A1A, to me would just create one heck of a traffic jam on busy days and holidays, the weekends and stuff. As far as partnering with developers, I have an issue with that, because we partner with developers and we never get anything for our city and for our residents in return. A promise to put, well, not even a promise, but to put money into a fund for affordable housing, or build some additional parking, a park, something like that. We forever are approving changes to the Land Development Code, the LDC, for developers, giving them zero lot line, additional density, and never asking what's in it for us. And every time we do that, that creates value, more value for their project, and all we get is diminished quality of life, more traffic, and things like that. As far as developers, when somebody has amassed as much land as some people do around here, and the city doesn't like their ideas and go, no, we're not going to work with you, but when they own the land, they have to, you need to look at that a little closer, rather than say, well, sell your land to somebody else and we'll work with them along those lines. So it needs to be more fair how we do business, and stop trying to pick winners and losers.
Okay, thank you. Mary, did you want to respond to that?
I just want to say that is property that should belong to the investment community, all of it along that area. But if we don't partner with the investment community, we will get what we've gotten. That thoroughfare looked that way. He said it since the 90s. I would go beyond that and say it started to look that way in the 80s when I was a teenager. So if we leave it the way that it is, and we're not willing to work with anyone, we will continue to get what we've got.
And may I say something, please? And I would just like to say my opinion. And I'm sorry if you all can't hear me. I would like to say my opinion. Mr. Henry said our greatest resource is the beach. That is not true. Our people are our greatest resource. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, thanks. I don't know, Ken, if you had any more to say on that issue?
Well, that the beach and the beach side has really been our economic driver of our city and our county for years, since the beginning of time. And we need to take better care of that area right there. That's the gateway to our economic driver in this county and in this city. And if we're not going to take care of that, how can we expect people to come here and respect our city, respect our neighborhoods, not throw trash out the window when they're driving down the street, and make it look like we care about it, so others that come here will care about it and maybe want to live here one day?
Okay. Well, let's go on to another question. And I do have some more development questions, as you might expect. But Mr. Henry, this one goes to you first. In response to the coronavirus pandemic, the City Commission has passed an ordinance requiring face masks in stores and other closed public spaces. Was that the right thing to do? Why or why not? And should the city take steps to require face masks or more social distancing on the world's most famous beach? In other words, down in the beach area itself, which is sometimes very packed, should that be extended in any way?
It was absolutely and unequivocally the right thing to do. Public health professionals across the nation agree. Americans largely agree and recognize that one of the most significant ways to reduce the spread of coronavirus is by wearing masks. And therefore, it is incumbent upon any elected official to not only encourage, but in those cases when public health and safety are at risk, to demand that masks be worn, with the exception for those who have medical conditions and situations that inhibit them from being able to do so. So I absolutely believe that it was the right decision. While we tried to encourage it, some things don't work with encouragement when you're in a pandemic. This is a pandemic. It is not, a situation that's novel or something that you can take lightly. It warrants our greatest and most profound attention. In addition, I guess the second part of that question was as it relates to the beach. Well, we do not control the beach area. I have called for, greater restrictions and greater protocols as it relates to the beach. But overall, I will say that the fact that the beach is outside warrants a different condition and a different situation, and we understand that there's a lot more less success of the virus passing itself from one person to the next in outside conditions. So I'm not as averse to outside conditions and mask mandates as I am to inside situations.
All right, thank you. Mr. Strickland, same question to you.
Well, I'm a big proponent of wearing a mask for several reasons. We have family members with asthma, Lyme disease, heart problems, age, those kinds of things. My wife works in a very tense environment in assisted living, where it's a little tighter rein. However, I do think that until the health department, which should be responsible for making that decision, because we're so stacked up here with Holly Hill, Daytona, South Daytona, and those things. You go from one city to another, and there's different rules. Just like with the beach, we're Daytona Beach, we have a mask rule. You go down on the beach, that's regulated by the county and the beach patrol. So I just feel like that should have been a decision made for the health department and get a better, even coverage on wearing the mask. I personally think you ought to wear a mask. I wear a mask. However, I guess it's up to everybody's own choice to do that. We have people that are worried about their freedom and being told to do certain things nowadays. I personally would not have made that choice if I were mayor to implement that. I would have asked the health department in the county to make that decision, to make it uniform county-wide, because we have so many different municipalities and now we have different rules.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Boyd, same question to you.
In regards to the mask mandate, I would not have forced people to wear the mask. I would have strongly suggested it, and I would have said that, and I will explain why. The other day I went into the 7-Eleven at 35 South Atlantic, and the man in there said, "You can't come in here with a mask." I said, "Well, we're not going to be next to each other." I had a mask. He said, "Well, we're not going to be within 6 feet of each other, so I can come in." No, the rule is you have to have one anywhere you go in Daytona, outside in businesses. And I said, "Sir, that's not true." I tried to explain it to him. So the reason I say that I wouldn't have done that is because there are people who simply do not understanding it, and they're causing problems. Now, we did not argue. He didn't want to hear it, and he said, you could leave, and that was fine. But the point was, if I didn't have the mask, I wouldn't have been able to come in there because he does not understand it. And I do agree, it should not have been made at our level. The strong suggestion, yes, inside the facilities operated, governed by the city, yes. I think the county supersedes us, and in that regards, me personally, I wouldn't have had a problem reaching out and humbling myself to ask Dr. Springer, the county medical examiner, his suggestion, because that's who I would have leaned on for medical advice, since I'm not medical expertise. And then if he would have said, yes, he suggested that, then I would have also asked who he suggests we reach with the CDC or the public health department, because that's not a decision that should have been made lightly, because it is causing a lot of stress in the community, and there are people with health factors. So again, I support wearing masks. I would not have mandated it. As for being at the beach side, we do not operate the beach side as Volusia County. Unfortunately, Daytona sold the beach to the county, which is another poor decision in business for us. but that happened many years ago prior to anyone here running for office. And so basically at the beach, I don't think there should be a problem with the beach being open. There's a lot more space. You should space out. It's common sense at this point, but more so, people need to get out. You need your vitamin D. We don't need people getting muscle atrophy and anxiety and tension. You got to get out the house. People need to be outdoors, and sunlight actually helps for you. So the beach is not a problem. I don't think you should be wearing a mask at the beach. If you have a health issue and you don't feel comfortable, wear a mask. And as for mandating, no, I would not have mandated, but I would strongly suggest, and I am not anti-mask.
Okay, thank you.
Can
All right.
we respond to that?
Yes, you may.
One thing must always be remembered is that during the pandemic, you need leadership, and you have to lead. After we led with masks, you saw other municipalities begin to enter the debate. Prior to their entering the debate, I reached out to the county, reached out to other cities, encouraged them to join us. They refused. Shortly thereafter, you saw DeLand, you saw New Smyrna, you saw Daytona, all implement some mass compulsory requirements. So it's important that we have a mayor and a leader who is a leader and who is not willing to deflect and pass the buck to other areas of government. The last thing we must remember is that the Volusia County Medical Association, which has over 200 and I believe 40 doctors as a part of their society, signed off on this and asked that we go ahead and pass this ordinance because they believe that it is in the best interest of our health and safety of all residents of Volusia County.
I'm going to ask just a quick question
Yes.
for any of you, but has the county government, have they been derelict in not taking a greater leadership role for the entire county themselves? In other words, Mr. Strickland's point that we have the sort of checkerboard of rules, should they have stepped up and spoken up and made it compulsory for the entire county?
You can go ahead and I'll come back after them since I was the one rebutting.
Okay.
It's another question.
Well, how about I'll just start with you, Mr. Strickland, and we'll just kind of go down the line.
I think the county has been derelict in a lot of their positions on a lot of things over the years. They lean toward what's best for their friends more so than what's best for the community, what's best for the county. I think, yes, they were very derelict in not making a decision on that through the health department. They wait until things are out of hand before they ever make a decision, usually. And then don't keep in mind that we have residents that have needs, special needs, and how it's going to affect them going down the road. So, you know, they've been derelict in more things than just the mask.
Okay. And just in the interest of getting through this question as quickly, we'll go to you next, Mr. Henry. Your thoughts on that?
Well, the county has a right to make their decision as they made it, and I am not opposed to their decision for them. If I were in their position, I would have made a different decision, clearly. That's why I decided what I decided. But we didn't have to wait for the county. Cities, government closest to the people should make the decisions that are most important to the people. So I wasn't afraid to make the decision, and that's what we need in leadership. We need leaders who are not fearful. And the last thing we should remember is that after Daytona Beach's mask ordinance, you have seen mask requirements not only from other cities, but you see masks being worn more throughout the county by and large because we initiated it, and now it's much less a debate because of that. But leadership brings that about.
Okay, and yes, Ms. Boyd, same question. Should the county have created
Are we
a
done with the
similar-
other question?
Yeah,
The
we're
one
still
before
on
that?
that one.
No, the one before that he rebutted to that we were speaking on. We're done with that one.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So as for the county, I think the county followed the guidelines in which they work for. We don't tell the county what to do. That's not how no one knows everything. I specialize and have a field study of emergency disaster management. And when it's a decision this grand, I would have sought advice because that's what a leader does. You have to know how to get other information. Anyway, so if I would have, the county being late to it, I can't answer that because the county is identifying that we are municipalities that have to do what they have to do. And if the county jumped in every time and made a decision for a municipality, it would cause a lot of problems because that's why they want to be their own entity. So where it's necessary, the county does speak up and step in. I do think Dr. Springer has been heavily involved in this here conversations from my employment with EVAC. I'm sure he's taken it very seriously and being there and seeing what I had seen. So was the county proactive? I can't say whether they were proactive or not because they have their own unincorporated area to deal with. But as for with us and the municipalities, I think they did the right thing by not getting involved.
Okay. We're going to go on to a non-coronavirus question, and it's to you, Mr. Strickland. The question is this, and I'm sorry to keep on beachside, but I'm probably betraying my own bias. The beachside matters a lot to me. And Main Street matters a lot. So Main Street has language. The exception being during special events, and especially like we can go like Oktoberfest. That's when Main Street's up and running. The question is kind of twofold. One is, are special events keeping Main Street and the core beach side from reaching its full potential? In other words, do those special events keep Main Street from becoming something else that perhaps would be better for the entire beachside neighborhood than if it's relegated to a special events place? And given the pandemic, should the city allow Oktoberfest to take place this fall?
As far as Main Street goes, Main Street has some issues over there because there's no really cut and dried rules that are enforceable to make sure that they're open year round. If you go to Leesburg during their bike week, their businesses are open year round. They move part of the stuff in the front part of their business back, and then the vendors set up inside in the front part of the businesses over there. We don't do that, so when you can make enough money in 10 days renting out your property that sits empty the rest of the time, what's the incentive to be open? We don't have anything that's enforceable. We don't have anything that we can do or haven't done in the past. The other thing about Main Street and about Bike Week, our major events, up until this year during Bike Week, we've always managed everything the same way. That's the way we've always done it. It's what the police chief will tell you. That's what anybody else will tell you. It's the way we've always done it. That's kept us where we are right now. We did keep cars off of Main Street this year. Although a lot of folks like myself, who I do ride, I didn't go to Main Street because of COVID-19 this year. But we need to move our management of our special events on Main Street back. We need to move that into the 21st century. Take Disney. Disney wouldn't downsize any of their events. They learned how to manage it. We need to learn how to manage our events and to get the most revenue out of them we can with the least amount of trouble for the neighbors and the neighborhood, but yet make sure that our guests are happy and safe going forward.
I just one very quick follow-up. So do you believe that Bike Week should take place this year, given the coronavirus pandemic?
Bike Week or Biketoberfest?
Biketoberfest, I'm sorry.
It depends on how we're doing with the curve, and it looks like to me, and I'm a pro biker, pro event person, but it looks like to me, as long as we keep increasing with cases, it's something that we need to seriously look at of not officially marketing. They're going to come whether you want them to or not. Some of them.
All right, Ms. Boyd. All right.
Facebook's down.
It went
Okay.
down?
Well, we're gonna.
It says, still says it's live here.
Okay.
I'm-
Well, we're gonna just keep going.
It froze.
Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna just keep going.
All right.
Because we don't have a choice.
Right.
we're here. So Ms. Boyd, same question to you. Should Main Street continue to rely on special events such as Biketoberfest, Bike Week? And given the pandemic that's going on right now, should the city consider canceling Biketoberfest altogether?
Okay, so those are kind of two completely opposite questions right now. One should, what do I think about what's going on in Main Street and the attractions that are going on? One, I think the issue with the businesses, the way Main Street looks the way it is that a lot of the businesses are closed majority of the year. The problem with that is that we don't have it in our ordinance when we issue business licenses that business should remain open 9 months out of a year. That's what a lot of places do. And then if they're not open, they're fined. They can have the option to sublease or whatever, but that might be a problem because they're not fond of short-term rentals here either. But that would be a solution to make it not look so desolate. It would keep money circulating and tourists would have something to see, because now if you look down Main Street, you wait for the tumbleweeds because it's so dead, because only 1 to maybe every 4 stores is occupied on a regular basis. The bars are shut because of what's going on. So you can imagine what it looks like right now out there. The hotels are shut. So that's dealing with the pandemic. But prior to the pandemic, the Main Street wasn't doing well, and it wasn't doing well because they're struggling to get business licenses. They're struggling with a lot of things. And one of it is predominantly leadership's fault. We're not generating any more revenue. We're not generating the tourism here. It's our responsibility to make sure the businesses have the people here to make the money that they need to make. And as for October, for the bikes, I love riding. I think that we should have it. However, with the numbers being what they are, and yes, the increase is going up, but please understand there have been a lot of false positives. There have been a lot more testing, so it's consciously common sense that the positive test would increase. The thing is, what is the death mortality rate per 1,000? Is that what's going up? I mean, we can't shut down forever. The pandemic's not leaving, and we'll have to make a means to figure out how to survive. We can't stop all events, otherwise every town was shut down. Vegas would never come back, Atlantic City, etc. So yes, we have to move forward. We just have to move forward wisely.
Okay. Mr. Henry, same question to you.
I have been a pro-bike event mayor. I intend to continue to be that. But we are in a pandemic, and I cannot overstate that. And because we are in a pandemic, were I to make a decision today as it relates to giving out a license, a special license, or a special permit during this time, today I would say no. It is my hope that somehow the numbers begin to shrink, and we're able to do that, because we've talked here about picking winners and losers. And that's something that, you know, when you're in elected office, you never want to do anything to adversely affect those who are in business. And so we're in a grave situation, and that's what would lead me to that decision at this moment in time. We must also remember that as it relates to Main Street, that we do in fact have ordinances that require them to be open year round. The reality is that, you know, we have a very difficult time of enforcing those. Since I've been on the dais as mayor, we have actually improved and tightened those down. Unfortunately, we must acknowledge that we haven't been successful. But as it relates to whether I would seek to alter Bike Week into our posterity without having a plan, without making change, I would not begin that muddy road towards trying to force bikers out of our community until we work with businesses down on Main Street, developed a plan, put something in place that showed that they could make a living and that they could continue to thrive. So that would be how I would address it.
Yes, just briefly.
Yes. My rebuttal to that is I'm concerned when they say we can't have special events. We're in a pandemic. We were in a pandemic when you allowed NASCAR to do what they did and have their permits and hold their events. We've been in a pandemic since January, truth be told, and a lot of events have taken place here. So I'm concerned that why the October, which is much further away and we can't necessarily predict, but now we have a number to scale, we're trying to stop that. But when we didn't have a baseline necessarily. We were okay giving other people an opportunity to hold events here. So if we're in a pandemic, we're just in a full throttle pandemic, and we don't allow any events.
Okay. I don't know if Mr. Henry, did you want to speak to that?
Well, we were not in a pandemic in January. Race events had already transpired, and there is a difference in issuing a special use permit and allowing someone on private property to, as NASCAR is private property, businesses are open. We're not saying that you can't conduct your business as you normally would. Our Biketoberfest, our bike events, ask for special use permits, and that's the difference, and those are things that the city controls, and we have to continue to acknowledge what we control.
Okay. We're going to go to the next question, and it goes to you, Ms. Boyd. The Midtown neighborhood also faces a variety of challenges. The neighborhood has too much crime. Much of the housing is in poor condition, and there's little commercial development. Among other things, it's largely a food desert because large grocery chains don't feel that the income of the neighborhood is high enough to support a grocery store in that area. As mayor, what would you do in the next 4 years to improve Midtown?
Well, I won't wait till I'm mayor. I've already been working with people and organizations in the area to work on building up Midtown. There are people who have nonprofit organizations, there are individuals and group leaders and church members and leaders who want to work together and do things. So some of the things we're talking about is getting together and forming youth programs and actually a conglomerate of a nonprofit so that it would encompass a lot of the things that are causing the issues that we're having. The area that you're talking about is predominantly filled with black people or non-white, and they're poor people. We know what gentrification is. We can go through that. But what's happening and what we need to do is we need to identify our strengths and our weaknesses first, because it is a strength area. We need to look at builders and developers and reach out to those who would like to do something for this area. It's a lot of opportunity and development, but we're not investing. The jobs that are coming in, we need to be able to get more money brought in here. We need to have more jobs that pay better. But as I told people before, me personally, what I would do for that area, it's not just the houses, for the people. We have to get the people more involved in different things in leadership and businesses. Support them in small businesses, open it up. Get the area cleaned up, the drugs and the alcohol and the shootings and there. I live there, I know what's going on. So we need to work with the police officers. I said I want police back on the beat, walking in those communities. I want a program where people are working together with the people who've been in trouble to stop the anti-recidivism. A lot of these people committing crimes don't all want to continue committing crimes, and there are obviously repeated felons, and they need to go to jail. That's where you work with the sheriff and you work with hopefully Jakari Young, and get this taken care of in the future. My plan would be work with them, start the program, we also don't have any, we have cameras in that area. I know we have cameras in that area, but the cameras are not all functional and they need to be operating. In addition to that, that would help with the crime. And the next thing is have a reach out program. We don't have any community police officers, like I said, that walk up and talk to people. If we build the public protection community together, people will be more likely to tell on people who are doing these things, and it will help us get to the bottom. But work with the police departments and just work with them to get the crime part especially down.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Henry, same question to you.
Could you restate?
The Midtown neighborhood faces a variety of challenges. Crime, housing that's in poor condition, it's a food desert, income disparity. All of those are issues, and not easy issues to crack. But as mayor, over the next 4 years, what would you do to improve Midtown?
Well, first and foremost, I must say that Midtown must be a seamless community with the rest of Daytona Beach. One of the issues is that we've oftentimes allowed ourselves to create and see Midtown as an enclave. It's my vision to see Midtown and downtown as seamless regions. So as we begin to see the downtown region take off and take flight, and we're very happy with the state bridge and Very happy with the Brown project and other things that are taking place down there. Happy with the fact that we're hopefully will see a Publix down there. That will help Midtown and take away some of it being a food desert because of its proximity. Even the park, I've said to people, you will live close enough to this park for it to be within walking distance to where you live. So it needs to be seamless and work together with the rest of the city. The thing that the city has done is, I believe, I'm a big person that believes in infrastructure. That's why we've redone Martin Luther King Boulevard from ISB all the way south. That's why we redid Orange Avenue. Right now we're working on a plan to beautify and redo Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard. And then we have to come back and partner with the businesses and do some things to support their efforts. We need to work on some zoning issues. They have some challenges down there because some of the things that they want to be able to do in some of the areas, they can't do them right now. So we need to get with our zoning department, get with them and enable them to be able to create the diversity of businesses that will help it to thrive.
Thank you. And Mr. Strickland, same question to you.
Well, somewhere over at City Hall, there is a shelved Midtown emerging study that we've paid for a grocery store. We need to pull that out and figure out what we can do with that for that Midtown area. The commission's had it in their hands for months now and nothing. They have absolutely done nothing about it, haven't even talked about it. It would be a good deal for us to for a public-private partnership. Those kinds of things I would be okay with putting the residents' tax money out there. Also, nobody has mentioned about Midtown and the flooding. I'm going to bring up the flooding over there. We seem to be able to find money, about $12.1 million to be exact, or close to exact, to redo Beach Street, which seemed like a perfectly good street to me. But we can't find the $15 million we need to embark on the beginning of repairing and addressing the flooding in the Midtown area. I think that's probably 32114 has poor health as far as the zip code here in this area. And that flooding creates other things besides just some wet carpet and people having to roll their pants up. You know, inside those walls of those places that get flooded, there's mold and you know, all kinds of things can happen when that water's there. So we need to address that flooding first thing. We need to address that food desert over there with great seriousness, because I've been living in this area for 30 years and it's been about the same way for the last 30 years, and people that I know say it's been that way for 2 generations, which is quite a bit longer than 30 years. So it's time to look at that, address that, and find the money to take care of some of our areas that are you know, that less fortunate people with less income live in. They deserve the same kind of treatment that Beach Street deserves.
Okay.
Need to be first priority.
All right.
And may I follow up?
Well, I'd like to go to the next question, if it would be okay. And it's not that far away from Midtown. Just in the interest of getting 12 questions in, because we're running out of time, and I've been letting everybody kind of go over on their time. Mayoral candidates, let's be disciplined the rest of the way.
Okay.
And let me go to the next question, which is to you, Mr. Henry. Downtown Daytona seems to have some good things happening. There's the new headquarters for Brown & Brown. That's rapidly taking shape on the north end of Beach Street. There's that massive park and street improvement program. Consolidated Tomoka and others are eyeing condominium and commercial development. Jack White continues to develop housing and shops in the Beach Street area. Rumor has it, not absolutely certain, but we put one of our best reporters, Eileen, on this. And rumor has it that the Orange Avenue Bridge is actually going to open up this week. We'll all see it. We'll all believe it when we see it. With all of that going on, you know, there's still this sort of, you know, is all that going to really do something to downtown? Is it going to really be the catalyst and ignite things? Or will we end up with a nice park and the same sleepy downtown street? What is it going to have to take for it to be a regional destination?
Well, one of the things that's going to help is improve density in the area, and when you have 1,000 people working in one building, that will help with the support of businesses. We can get those condominium projects built, that will certainly help with density as well, because you want people living in the downtown, working in the downtown, so that it becomes a vibrant area. We have to remember that a lot of people will complain and say that projects like the Brown and Brown weren't a good project, but that project started out as a $30 million, $35 million project. It's already worth $60 million, and so therefore it's already exponentially worth, and they will pay much greater into our tax base than was projected. So I would have to say that we have to continue to work on the density. I believe that the life and vibrance of the community, many of the folks who have met with me and some of the plans that they plan for that area, I think will bring it to life in a new way.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Strickland, same question to you.
Well, there again, I think we've spent a lot of tax dollars down there, and made a commitment of a lot of tax dollars going forward in the future to the tune of about $40 million over the next 50 years to maintain that park. We spent $4.5 million on infrastructure down there. We gave up that 50-year lease. We've got $4.3 million to narrow 3 blocks of Beach Street. We spent $100,000 to move the Josie Rogers house again. I think that thing's been moved 2 or 3 times, maybe more. And we also, out of nowhere, decided we were willing to pay $3.2 million to fix up the repair or replace the seawall there. Those kinds of things are very expensive for the taxpayers, and there's no documentation of how much money that's going to bring in, how good that's going to be for the tax-paying residents in the future. We have nothing solid. All we have is what some of us activist people call as happy talk. Sometimes it pans out, sort of. Most of the time it does not. So, we need something that's going to be solid, something that we can take to the bank and know that the residents are not getting snookered again.
All right, thank you. And Ms.
Can you
Boyd,
repeat it
same
now?
question.
I'm
to you.
sorry.
So the question is, downtown has a lot of development going on. We have the Brown and Brown project, the big park project, the streets project, and there seems to be a lot of potential development around all of that. At the same time, it hasn't really paid off, and downtown has been sort of sleepy for quite a while. What will it take with all of this, or will all of this be enough to be the catalyst that turns it into a destination point, similar, for example, to downtown DeLand?
Okay. No, I don't think it will, and I think we do DeLand the injustice if we compare it to, because DeLand is actually very well populated. Their stores fronts of majority of them are full at all times, and doors are open. They were doing that before COVID. What I think right now has happened with Brown and Brown, we came off of the short end of that deal. That is what the issues have been with the real estate development here. I understand that we were told the park was a gift. So in regards to the downtown area, we do not need any more development in that area. Again, I think we need to circle around. It's not going to pay off itself. The money's been lost and invested, and I don't think we should continue to throw good money after bad. And we have other areas where we could make those improvements. So will we get what we put into it? Not in the immediate future, I do not believe. And with what's going on currently, it may actually take a longer time to even balance out for what we've invested and what we've received.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to go to the next question, and it goes to you, Mr. Strickland. So the next question is this. After a variety of cost overruns and delays, the first step shelter is now up and running. They have quite a few clients coming through, but many homeless are not using it. I don't know if it's ever been at full capacity. Can you assess the performance of the shelter to this point?
Dismal. I find it dismal. We started out with a figure of $2.5 million to build a shelter, and somehow or another we got north of $6 million in the end, and probably closer to $7 million. We don't have a safe zone. I don't know that it's ever had. I read in the paper that recently that it had 48 space for 48 people. I'm not sure that we've ever had 48 people in there. And then the COVID-19 came, and we've probably been somewhere around 20 or 25 or less ever since then. Not to mention, it's caught up in the what I call the dirty dirt deal with P&S paving. We've got two huge retention ponds out there that we dug the topsoil out of to sell to lower the cost on that shelter. And I remember in the beginning when the first one was talked about being dug, that it was going to be for runoff from the shelter. Well, it's way too far away from the shelter for the runoff to go there. So, you know, it's just been, and I before COVID, I used to attend most all of those meetings, and they would make decisions, and then it would get overruled from upstairs with our city manager that we're not going to do that. And that resulted in a couple of really good board members resigning because they were feeling like that they were useless at that point, and I agreed with them. And our city manager stated at one time that he didn't want to be in the homeless business. I remember our mayor saying at one time he didn't want to be in the homeless business. Now we're in the homeless business, years behind getting it built, and many millions of dollars, several $1 million over budget. So we really need to utilize that totally and completely, keep those beds full, and try to help some people get off the street going forward. And during COVID, we need to figure out a way to quarantine people for 14 days at a time and then move them into that shelter and start working with them. We can't wait over. It may not ever be over with to an extent that we can go to operating the shelter like it was originally intended. We need to move it to a place. We have to adapt. We can't just say, well, we can't do that right now. We got to figure out what we need to do right now, because those people need a place to live. Those people need food to eat. They need medical services and other things like that.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Boyd, same question to you. How do you assess the performance of the First Step shelter so far?
Thus far, I think the shelter has cost more than what it's given back. Again, it did come in well over budget, almost 3 times over budget. In addition to that, it is not necessarily feasible to the people who need to use it. Homeless people come in different varieties. You have the homeless people by choice and the homeless people by no choice of their own, systems or whatever has happened. And then you have those who don't even understand what's going on because of a mental capacity issue. So we have those people. Now we have a facility that says you can't come in here if you need medical treatment. You can't come in here if you need to be, if you have any alcohol in your system. You can't come in here if you're on any kind of drugs. If they come in there and they have a drug in their system but they don't have the pill bottle or something, I can understand that. The issue is, I think the problem is we have categorized homeless as a negative stigmatism. The homeless shelter is supposed to be to help people who are homeless, period. Now, of course, we don't want people in there who are going to commit crimes and heinous acts because we have to protect the people in there. So the protection system needs to be there. But what we need to do is stop telling people that can't come in there. It was built too far away. It's not accessible. It was built like many of the people are doing currently. If you look at the Florida leagues of cities, it's what they do, what they've been doing, and how they've been working on building homeless shelters near jails and near prisons. So it was done as they wanted it done. It was all a part of the plan. It just was not a beneficial plan, and it does not serve the capacity. And with the pandemic and things that are happening, there are going to be a lot more homeless people, and that facility is not going to be functional as it should be or impactful as we need it to be.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Henry, same question to you.
First thing is that we have to remember that our community was confronted with a problem. We needed a solution, so we needed a leader to bring together the entire Volusia County to try and solve this problem. No one else wanted to address it. No other city, neither did the county. So I went and met with county council, met with members of that delegation. Certainly they agreed to pay for it. The cost has been more than I wanted it to be. And no, I didn't want to be in the homeless business because I didn't want to have homeless people. But because we had homeless people and we continue to have them, we as a city are now in the homeless business. Has it been a perfect solution? No. But we have worked together with the other municipalities on the East Coast, bringing them together to partner with us and to work together. Now, the shelter currently is budgeted to handle 45 people. It has been close to that number. Right before COVID, it was right at that number or just a few people short. COVID came along. Of course, there has to be some adjustment. There is concern. The shelter is not equipped to deal with community spread. So the issue now is that yes, it's open and yes, we are taking people. But the most important thing that we have to remember is that people have graduated from homelessness. I know of at least 6 people who have graduated and who are now living in long-term permanent housing. And that's the goal of the shelter. And we will continue to work to do that as we move through COVID.
All right, thank you. And the next question goes to you, Ms. Boyd. And you had mentioned this person earlier. Police Chief Capri is planning to step down in 2021. One name that has been mentioned to replace Chief Capri is Deputy Chief Jakari Young. Mr. Young has a great reputation within the department and also with citizens. So here's the question. Should the City Commission interview Mr. Young for the job first, or should the City Manager interview Mr. Young for the job first and then decide what to do? Or should the city have a general, anybody can apply, and then from those applications, pick the best candidate?
So my answer would rely on one thing. First, I'd have to know is what their employee promotion rules are, and if the jobs have to be listed. Working in government, I can tell you that if it's an open job that you have to advertise, then you can't just put someone in a position. However, if it's not that type of position, then you can elect to select that candidate. If that is the option, then I would say that it needs to be a vote amongst the council, because 5 people, the reason I say not Mr. Chisholm, he is getting ready to leave. So I don't think he should have an interest or a say-so in something that's going to be beyond his time. If he's leaving in March and the new person's coming, there's 3 months. I don't think he should have any say-so or weigh in on that. I think the council, the 5 people, their leaders, they should be able to lead to make that decision on who should be the head of our department, police department.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Henry, same question to you.
The police chief is obviously one of the most important jobs in the city. And I said to the manager and I said to the residents of Daytona Beach, when we selected our last police chief, we didn't do a national search. When we selected our last fire chief, we didn't do a national search. Jakari Young is homegrown. We know him. We love him. We trust him. We have confidence in him. And I said to the manager, and I say this to the city of Daytona Beach and all who will listen, I believe that he should have the job. And I believe that the city manager, despite the fact that he is exiting, should appoint Jakari Young as the next chief of police, because he is leaving and he is who we want. The commission seems to want him 100%. The community is 100% behind him. So I've told the manager this. I said it publicly and I said it privately. The job should be Jakari Young's, and if it's not, then we'll have to make some alternative decisions as a commission to see what we do, because I'm engaged in an equity initiative as mayor, and I believe it is a matter of equity, but most importantly, it's a matter of having the right man for the job, and Jakari Young is the right man for this job.
All right, thank you. Mr. Strickland, same question to you.
Well, this might be the only thing that the current mayor and I agree on. Jakari Young is the man for that job. He's loved by the community. He's came up through the ranks with Sheriff Chitwood behind the current police chief. He's well versed in de-escalation, the body cameras, the policies that are enforced there that have kept us one of the leading cities probably in the state, if not the nation, with not having issues with the police and our citizens. And I think he deserves the job. We don't need to spend the money on a national search. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. And if he doesn't get that job, we deserve to get sued again. And we ought to have to pay whatever it is that cost us, because he's the guy for the job. There's nobody else. They're not going to find another Chitwood. They're not going to find anybody as good as Jakari Young out there. I mean, he is a great guy, a great policeman, has all the credentials. Why are we going to go look?
All right, thank you. We have, let's see, how many questions do we have to go now?
I don't know.
And who is next?
I believe he is. You just
I
started
believe,
with me.
yeah, I think we just started with you.
You
So
just
yeah, the
started?
next question is to
Well, he went last.
you.
So
No.
when he goes last, I go.
Yeah, you went last, so it went this way, and now it's to you, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Now, see,
That's right.
in speaking up, I've confused everyone.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, so here's the question, and Jim Chisholm was mentioned. But Jim Chisholm has said he will retire as Daytona Beach City Manager in 2021. Assess Mr. Chisholm's performance and tell me the qualities you hope to see in the next city manager. And also, is there anyone at City Hall who you see as a candidate for the job of city manager?
Well, I wouldn't discourage anyone from applying, but I am preferable to someone outside of City Hall at this time. That doesn't mean that we don't have very talented people, because we do. And if one were to emerge through the interview process as a top candidate, I would be happy to consider them. Mr. Chisholm has been a mixed bag. He's a professional manager with a great deal of knowledge, been able to help us to navigate some very tough situations. His interpersonal skills have left a lot to be desired among residents, and his ability to communicate has not been his strong suit. His relationship with me personally, as both a mayor and working with me, has been favorable. Most of the things that I've asked him to do, he's worked diligently towards, so I would say he's compliant as it relates to that. Sometimes I feel as though he has overstepped some of his boundaries, even as manager. So it's a mixed bag, as it is with anyone who's been around for 16 years. The same is the case with me. When you've been mayor for 8 years, there are a lot of things to nitpick and pick at. So that's the case with our city manager. But the things that I'm looking for in the next manager, someone who has a transformational mentality, has a big picture view, who can see down the road, who can deal with the details of a city government, because it's a complex institution that requires a lot of skill and a lot of interpersonal skills. You have to have those soft skills as well as the intellect and the experience to manage a big government. So I'm looking for a dynamic, transformational leader who can take the policies and procedures that we as a city commission adopt and run with them.
Thank you. Mr. Strickland, same question to you.
Well, since Mr. Chisholm's name has been brought up, I think that every time it was talked about removing him, it was stated that we can't afford to because of his package, his golden parachute package. We don't need to get into another situation like that with the next manager. And truth be known, if we'd have gotten rid of Mr. Chisholm 10 years ago, we would have saved money just by paying him right off the bat. He's not very friendly to the residents. He acts like he hates us. I saw him on a Channel 9 interview when asked about what the residents of the flood zone should do. He stated that they should move to higher ground. I personally think he should have been relieved of duty the very next time they had a meeting over there for saying that. When you have people living in subsidized housing, they're doing well to pay their portion of the rent. Not any money, they don't have money to move to higher ground. So our next manager needs to be resident friendly, needs to be hear what the residents want, what the residents need, and not be so closed-minded and just take us down the path that he wants to go and not listen to what's going on. We also need a manager that has the ability to manage things at the spur of the moment, like to take care of what's going on in town whenever we have big crowds, big weekends like Bike Week and those sort of things. Someone who has some experience with big gatherings, and he just needs to be citizen friendly, because I think that our current manager doesn't give a hoot about what the residents say, and therefore everybody's a little up in arms about what he does and what he says. So we need somebody that's resident friendly and event friendly, knows about those things.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Boyd, it's the same question to you. What qualities do you feel we need for the next city manager, and assess the performance of the current city manager, Mr. Chisholm?
I wish I had Mr. Chisholm's performance eval from his job in front of us. I guess that's a good request for an open records to tell you what he's really being performed as or being measured upon. But as of what I can tell from the outside looking in, I think he's done pretty poorly as a leader because of how he's allowed to allow contracts to come through. If you look at how the city's growth is on one side versus another, you can hear what the people are saying. So to ask me how his performance is, I would say piss poor, if that's acceptable. And as in regards to what we can do in the future and the type of manager we need to hire, one, he cannot be part of the good old boy system. There's enough of that. Secondary, he needs to be acceptable to diversity. That means allowing people and ideas from outside in and not thinking across the norm. We've always done it this way is just as bad as who moved my cheese. We've always done it this way will keep you where you are. So I always tell people, Daytona, we deserve better. So we need someone with better leadership skills, someone with better accountability, better transparency, better communication, better accountability, better vision, and not someone, and in regards to this person, whoever he or she may be, we need to look into their background, because we cannot end up with another person like the commissioner for the utilities. So they can't have any kind of smudges on their background in regards to that, because we're entrusting to them our city. That means they're going to make contracts, they're going to make bids, they're going to go out here and manipulate systems to get money if we hire the wrong one. Then we can have those who work in our benefit, kind of like a lobbyist for us is what I would look at this person as. Go out there and get the best deal for us, fight for us, and keep it fair and equitable. And then last thing on that, of course, is that this person has to have the ability to be accessible. Mr. Chisholm right now seems to be one of the least accessible people I've known in regards to one-on-one communication and conversation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I think we've reached the final question of this debate, and it's going to you first, Mr. Strickland, and here it is. So the Proto Group hotel is slowly taking shape on the beach side, and I do mean slowly. It's been under construction for quite a while. The builders have already been given some extensions. I believe it's supposed to be completed by January of 2021. But I drive by that place all the time, and certainly the exterior is much more completed than it was 6 months ago. However, it appears that there's a good deal of interior work still to be done. Do you think that it will be finished on time, and has the city been too forgiving of the developer of that hotel? And you only have 90 seconds.
Anybody's guess on when that project will be finished. I think that when we allow someone like Proto Group to come here with their projects, and even though they don't ask for any incentives, we need to perform clause, a performance bond, that they'll meet certain deadlines, meet certain things along the way, because that does nothing but hinder what we're trying to do here with make our beachside, upgrade it, make it pretty, make it nice. That construction seems like it's been going on over there for ever, seems like. And I think we should have been a little harder on them. And we need to tie developers up a little better with what we expect out of them going forward. It's just beyond me how we get in these situations. Like with the bridge, even though the bridge is a county project, the county should have had some performance stuff on there, and we did not have that on either one of these projects. And we just need to. The citizens shouldn't have to foot the bill and drive around in construction stuff days, months, years on end with no change on our behalf. Like we're going to change one-way lane over there for these guys. They can drive around the block. I do. I don't see why not. But we make special exception for them, and we always cater to them, but we don't think about our residents and our neighborhoods and our city. What's in it for us when they come here? They need to bring us something. It's time for us to start getting some value out of developers. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Boyd, same question to you. The Proto Group Hotel, do you think it will be completed on time? And do you think that the city has been tough enough on that developer?
I don't know the details to why it's not done on time, but no, I do not have any idea why it's not done thus far and what's taking so long. But what I can say is it's not one of those situations that I believe is, I'll say is they have a lot of extensions, so that's a huge issue. But I don't believe it's one of those things I can personally speak on, to be honest, because I don't know what the hindrance is. I don't know if it's finances or what have you. But what I can say is that if the development does continue and we are not harder on them, he did say performance contracts, and I understand that, but they already have contracts. They come in and they say, hey, this is what we plan to do, and they ask for a license and they get the permits. That is their permit. That's with the time in it. That's what they're allotted to do. What I do think we should do is fine them when they don't complete their development in time, or if we go in there and we find that they've skewed something or not done something correctly, fine them for that. Again, we are giving away our land, milk and honey, and we're getting nothing in return. Part of the issues is with the development is that the developers are coming here and they've it almost feels like Daytona is owned by developers and we have to ask permission to do something as citizens. And that's going to continue to happen. So in regards to this project being done, I don't think it'll be done anytime soon. But then again, in all fairness, I don't know why it's taking so long.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Henry, you get the final word on Proto Group.
And the question is, will they be done on time, or
Yeah, well,
have we been tough enough on them?
It's a dual question. It's both. Do you think that they'll meet this latest deadline, just given how much has been done so far? And has the city held their feet to the fire as much as they should have?
I have no way of knowing whether they will be done or not. I have not been inside the building. It looks like it's coming to a close, but January is coming rather rapidly as well. I would say that we have to remember that when a developer comes to your community, he asked for a permit. He's building a building that will cost $200 million. And it will greatly enhance our tax base once it's done. So to say that if you ask them to allow you to put into writing fines and things of that nature, the likelihood of you being able to attract that development is unlikely. There's nothing that we gave him for him to choose Daytona Beach. It's private property. We don't own the property. The property is sitting there. It's much more valuable to us if it is enhanced. So the objective at the end of the day is to do what we can to help get the property enhanced and collect taxes on a $200 million property that will bring in businesses, because it's commercial property. And that's the best type of property to have in your community, is commercial property, because it's lower maintenance and brings in usually a greater return on your investment. So that's my position on that.
All right, thank you. And we have reached the time where we are through our questions. We could keep going on, but we probably shouldn't. And where you each get 2 minutes for closing comments. So we're going to go in alphabetical order again. And Ms. Boyd, we will start with you.
Well, again, thank you for hosting this for us. And I just want to say, as we close out, again, I'm Sherrise Boyd, and obviously, I'm Sherrise Boyd, and I'm running for mayor of Daytona. I feel that we do deserve better as a community. We have allowed the city to be bought and purchased for by developers. We've allowed leaders to fail at their job. We've allowed a lot of things to happen, and we have to take an onus on that. Our onus is our vote. Our vote will be our voice. Our voice will be that we want the city back. A lot of these questions were not questions that I was hoping to for, because there are a lot more pressing issues I feel in the city. Development is the obvious problem, but development is the least about answers right now with COVID. I thought we'd have more questions developed, geared toward what we're dealing with currently. But that said, I do agree that there's a lot of growth here and there's a lot of potential. We are a gym and we just need to be shined. But as a leader and a person, I hope to look forward to leading this community into greater and better things. And I look forward to working with a lot of the people in the community and continuing to work with those people. And lastly, I think that when you vote for your leader, you have to look at what many of the people in this room will say is how long they've been here. And if you've been here as long as you have, I always tell people, what's your fruit of your labor? So if you've been here for so many years and you've been so invested and so concerned with your city, I think there should be something to show for that. And if you want to lead, you have to lead from the pack. You need a leader that will come out there and be one with the community of all demographics, dynamics, and genders, ages, or whatever, and understand that if we do not come together as one, businesses, people, communities, and stop being in the silos, then we're not going to do better as a community. And we can do so much better, and we deserve better. I'm Sherrise Boyd, and thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Henry, you're next. You have 2 minutes for a closing comment.
As your mayor, you know me. I was born and raised in this community. Went to Rollins College, went to Mainland High School, went to Stetson University. Colleges and high school that you know. I taught your children. I've run mentoring programs. And over the last 8 years, we've had $5 billion worth of growth and development that's either done or in the pipeline to be finished. Our city is being transformed into a better and brighter community. And we need a mayor who believes in the city, who speaks positively about development, speaks positively about neighborhoods, who loves to serve this city, who's raising his family in the city that he was born in. So it's important to remember that we've made great strides. And I recognize that we have a long way to go. And I look forward, with your vote and your support, to pushing us even further into greater heights. I was the mayor who pushed for a reduction in water bills during the pandemic, pushed for a CARES program that supported small businesses. Yes, I was the mayor who loved and cared about you, the residents of Daytona Beach, enough to force masks upon you. That was not an easy decision, but I made it. I was the mayor who pushed to address homelessness. Yes, the shelter has been a challenge, but it's a great investment in our future. Yes, I was the mayor who also pushed for a panhandling ordinance. And you see now that our streets are a lot cleaner and a lot better. Are we a perfect city? No, we're not. But together, we can get better if you stick with the mayor that you know, a leader who cares. I'm Derrick Henry, and I still want your vote because I still have more work to do in our community.
Thank you. Mr. Strickland, you get the final 2 minutes.
2 words.
2 minutes. I'm sorry.
My name's Ken Strickland. I'm running for mayor of Daytona Beach. I am not the candidate of no. Our city needs a mayor who's going to ask more questions before saying yes, so we'll know what we're getting into. I've lived here a while. I know how we got to where we are now. And I know what it's going to take to get us out of where we are right now. I want to unite the city. I want to unite us by neighborhood, by political party, by race, by income, all of those things, because we're going to have to come together to improve this city as one cohesive unit. I want to have Meet the Mayor Mondays. Every Monday, different business, and people can come in. And it's not to be about the mayor. It's so that people that come can get to know the business that we meet in, that they can get to know each other. They can get to know what's going on in the community and what each other's needs are, and if they can help each other. I will work to get some workforce housing here. There's been 11,000 units approved under the current mayor's reign, and not one single affordable housing unit has been brought about. I will answer your emails. I will answer your phone calls. My phone number's out there everywhere. It's laying right here in my lap right now. If you call that number, it'll ring right here. Actually, it'll vibrate right now. But you can just call me anytime you want to. I'm retired. I can be a full-time mayor that works every day if necessary. I don't have a problem doing that. I would like to see some other things happen in this town as far as the residents being able to be heard and to go over to City Hall, and when they need something done or they have problems with code enforcement, we'll have an ombudsman to help them get through the process. And for small businesses that want to work here, come to our town. We need somebody to help them get through that cumbersome red tape at City Hall without them going broke before they get open. I'm Ken Strickland. I'm running for mayor of Daytona Beach.
All right, good
Thank
job, you guys.
We are done. I just want to say a final word to everybody. First, I want to thank the candidates. I want to thank the audience. If we had technical problems, I apologize. But I want to thank you. And I especially want to thank the candidates just for running for office. That's a really difficult thing to do these days. And especially at a time when there is a pandemic, it's even more challenging. So I really appreciate you guys, women, running for office, and thank you for your time today.
All right.
We're done.
All right, thank you.